This is Sweden, the ninth most populous country in the EU, with over 10 million citizens in its borders. It's part of the Scandinavian Peninsula, Europe's northernmost lands. The vast majority of Sweden's coastline stretches along the Baltic Sea, though a part of it also edges on the mouth opening up to the North Sea. The country borders two EU neighbors, Finland to the east and Denmark to the southwest. Okay, yes, they don't technically border each other, but come on. And in the west, Sweden borders Norway, a non-EU country. Sweden enjoys access to the Arctic Circle to the north and is home to Gothenburg, the largest port in Scandinavia and a very prosperous trading hub for the EU. Gothenburg is a key contributor to Sweden's impressive GDP, worth $585 billion in 2022. This is the second video in a series where we break the Union into 27 pieces and dissect each of the member states one by one. Today we delve into Sweden, focusing on Sweden's history, economy and politics, Sweden's representation in the EU, and Sweden's relationship with the EU. At the close of World War II, Sweden emerged unique, a neutral nation amidst a continent ravaged by conflict. This neutrality, which kept Sweden out of the devastations of both world wars, was a source of national pride and underpinned its post-war foreign policy. Sweden had an intact industrial base after the war, laying the foundation for the country's subsequent economic boom. During the Cold War, Sweden decided not to join NATO, even as many European neighbors did. Sweden even pursued its own nuclear weapons program in secret, aiming to bolster its defense and ensure its neutrality. However, after international pressures and growing domestic opposition to nuclear weapons, Sweden chose to abandon its nuclear ambitions in the 1960s. Nonetheless, Sweden's thriving economy, backed by industrial prowess, made it a European powerhouse. Progressive social policies transformed the nation into a capitalist welfare state, offering extensive public services funded by high taxes, a model that many admired. Yet as Europe moved towards greater unity, Sweden faced a conundrum. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, global dynamics had shifted. The Cold War ended, the EU grew more economically influential, and Sweden's economy faced challenges. These factors, combined with a desire to shape European policies, compelled Sweden to reevaluate its stance. A 1994 referendum sealed the deal. Sweden would join the European Union. While the vote was close, the arguments in favor of membership were persuasive: economic stability, increased trade opportunities, and a seat at the decision-making table. Sweden became the 15th EU member in 1995. Yet Sweden's ties with the EU present complexities. While a member, it has chosen to keep its currency, the krona, forgoing the euro after a 2003 referendum. Similarly, Sweden has remained outside of NATO. However, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine prompted a re-evaluation of this stance, highlighting potential threats to Swedish sovereignty. Consequently, in May, Sweden applied for NATO membership. Today, Sweden is known for following the Nordic model. Workers hold a lot of power through multi-level collective bargaining, and the welfare state allows for equal opportunity as well as security. This model has worked quite well for Sweden. It ranks 5th in Europe in terms of GDP per capita, but sits at 7th on the Human Development Index ranking, and is the 7th happiest country in the world. Sweden's GDP has doubled since joining the EU, and its economy is highly developed and export-orientated, with its strength anchored in machinery, vehicles, and mineral fuels. Intra-EU trade plays a pivotal role, constituting a significant 52% of Sweden's exports. The primary EU trading partners include Germany, followed by Denmark and Finland. Outside of the EU bloc, Norway receives 11% of Sweden's exports, while the United States gets 8%. On the import front, an overwhelming 68% hail from EU countries. This includes Germany, the Netherlands, and Denmark. From non-EU nations, 9% of imports come from Norway, with China providing 6%. Amidst this robust trading landscape, Sweden has an impressive track record in nurturing innovation and entrepreneurship. The nation has given birth to numerous unicorns, companies that achieve a valuation of more than $1 billion while still being unlisted. This elite group includes video game developers such as King and Mojang, fintech marvel Klarna, and the globally acclaimed music streaming service Spotify. Sweden can also boast about global giants like Saab and IKEA. In terms of EU funding, Sweden has consumed around 2.8 billion euros from the EU in 2022, which includes money for agriculture and rural development, maritime and fisheries, and the development of Sweden's digital economy, labor market, and green industry. But Sweden is also a large EU contributor, paying around 4.2 billion euros into the EU budget in 2022, making Sweden a net EU contributor. Interestingly, Sweden has not yet adopted the euro and still uses the krona. Unlike Denmark, which has an official opt-out, Sweden is obligated to eventually join the eurozone, since it doesn't have a formal exemption. However, it has been able to delay its adoption due to not meeting all the required eurozone criteria, even though it easily could. The EU Commission and eurozone nations have also informally allowed Sweden to delay adopting the euro, for now. But public opinion seems to be shifting, with a recent poll indicating 54% of Swedes favoring the euro. Despite some varying numbers, the overall trend suggests growing euro support, possibly influenced by the weakening krona. Nonetheless, only the very small Liberal Party supports euro adoption. Therefore, euro adoption will remain unlikely in the immediate future. In terms of politics, Sweden is a constitutional monarchy, where the king is the head of state, largely a ceremonial and symbolic role, representing Sweden at official functions and hosting international leaders while remaining politically neutral, while the prime minister, as head of the government, oversees policy implementation, legislative initiatives, and domestic affairs. So in reality, Sweden is a parliamentary democracy, the freest in the world in fact, according to the Freedom House Index. Recently, however, there's been some disruptions to the status quo. The conservative moderates, the Christian Democrats, and the central liberals have formed a coalition government, backed in parliament by the controversial right-wing populists, the Sweden Democrats. Thus, the coalition supported by the Sweden Democrats leans right-wing, prioritizing crime, often linked to rising immigration, followed by immigration and integration. The coalition also vowed to reinvest in nuclear energy. The biggest party in opposition is the Swedish Social Democratic Party, the biggest political party since the 20th century, who usually stand for progressive policies, workers' rights, and a comprehensive welfare system. On the European level, Sweden is allocated 21 seats in the European Parliament, in accordance with its total population. Among the 27 countries, Sweden ranks 8th in terms of the number of MEPs, with Germany, the most populous, having 96 MEPs, and Malta, the smallest, having only 6 MEPs. 6 Swedish MEPs are part of the center-right EPP group, 5 are part of the center-left S&D, 3 have joined the conservative ECR group, another 3 are part of the centrist Liberal Renew Party, 3 more are part of the Greens, and 1 is member of the far-left party, the Left. So Swedish voters are quite spread out ideologically when it comes to their European representation. In terms of Euroscepticism, Sweden leans largely pro-EU, with only 3 MEPs aligning to the ECR group, though the rise of the Sweden Democrats could potentially shift this stance in the future. But it doesn't stop here. Sweden's representation extends to the European Commission, the EU's executive level. Ylva Johansson serves as the European Commissioner for Home Affairs, who manages the internal security of the entire EU. But do EU and Sweden get along? In short, yes. Despite the rise of nationalist parties such as the Sweden Democrats, these groups still view Sweden's membership of the EU as beneficial, as do its people. A 2022 poll showed that 64% of Swedes approve of their country's membership of the EU, with only 12% voicing opposition. This is a record high EU approval rate in Sweden, which may come as a surprise given how close the initial referendum to join the Union was back in 1994. So why are Swedes so keen on Europe now? It's likely because of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Many Swedish citizens fear that an aggressive Russia could one day push into their country and threaten their sovereignty, so they see the Western EU sphere of influence as a much better alternative. But Sweden is not always in agreement with other EU countries. They are part of the so-called Frugal Four, together with Austria, Denmark, and the Netherlands. This group is known for their fiscal conservatism and preference for stricter budgetary discipline within the EU. Their stance often contrasts with countries advocating for greater financial integration and shared fiscal responsibility. For instance, during the discussion about the EU's COVID-19 recovery fund, the Frugal Four were initially hesitant and pushed for loans rather than grants, highlighting their preference for tighter financial controls and hesitancy towards mutualized debt. But what do you think of Sweden's place in the EU? We'd love to hear from our Swedish viewers, so please leave a comment letting us know your thoughts. And a big thank you to our Swedish viewers that volunteered to contribute to the video. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you enjoy the content. And if you want to support the channel further, please sign up to Patreon. Until next time.